Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. Let's talk about the latest episode of Supergirl. It's called Blind Spots. And it starts off with Nixley, who is trying but who can't seem to make her locator work. The locator staff that she made by trapping Mixie in that little orb or whatever that's at the top of it. We see Kelly talking to Joey, the little kid who had just moved into the new apartment that was the subject of the previous episode. And as she's talking to him on the phone, the building that he lives in disintegrates in front of her. And she ends up taking him to the hospital when he has trouble breathing. The councilwoman from the previous episode is also affected, I guess because she was in the neighborhood at the time, and threatens her doctor that if she doesn't get an experimental medication so that she'll get better, I guess quickly, she won't approve grants for the hospital. And it seems that whatever dust everybody inhaled when the building came down is some kind of extra natural property, which soon starts messing with everyone, except for her, because she happened to inject this experimental drug just before the properties of the dust kicked in everybody. Lena, who's still in the cave with her mother's witch friend, has a vision of her friends in trouble, a la Luke Skywalker.
I can't keep the vision out of my head. They're my friends. I gotta help them.
While she's trying to learn how to use her witch powers that she apparently now has because her mother was a witch. So bizarre. Diggle shows up at Kelly's place at Jimmy's behest because I guess she had called him and said, I don't know what to do. This building collapsed. There's chaos, etc. The councilwoman muses out loud that she'd like a salad, and one shows up in her hand, kind of magically. So it seems that what's happening is the fifth dimensional energy got fused into the building when Supergirl blew up that supposed bomb. And it then got into the dust that is now in the lungs of all the people who were in the building when it collapsed. The councilwoman, I guess, had hers activated in such a way by this experimental drug that when she uses said energy to conjure some money to pay off another council person to vote with her on something so that they can bring in some tech companies, instead of providing affordable housing, she's very pleased that she's able to do this. The older brother of the kid, Jimmy, who was also in the previous episode, confronts the councilwoman and the system that she represents. And when her goon goes to strike him, Guardian, who of course is Kelly, intervenes with Diggle, and they try but fail to get the councilwoman back to the tower because they realize something's wrong and they need to straighten her out so that she can't keep doing what she's doing. Kelly reads the team the riot act for being too focused on trying to stop Nixley and not on helping the people who look like her. It seemed a little bit out of the blue because, I don't know, what's happening in this episode is she's sort of embroiled in that whole thing while the rest of the team is trying to find Nixley and stop her, not only to help Mixie, but because they're worried about what she's going to do, which is going to be, you know, sort of monumental compared to this one building going down and these few people being, you know, displaced and going through something with the dust. Diggle talks about giving up the ring so as not to leave his family. So where's the ring? Now, he doesn't mention the ring, but we all know what he's talking about. So it kind of brings up this question of what if he decided not to do it, which explains why we haven't seen him as Green Lantern yet. Where's the ring? What did he do with it? Maybe we'll get more information about this whole thing as the rest of the season unfolds, but that was a question I had during the episode because they don't explain that at all. When Supergirl goes to talk to Kelly about what she had said and about what she's feeling, Kelly says she wants to be a hero for people who look like her, that don't have heroes that look like them. She also talks with Supergirl about luxury, which of course is a stand-in phrase for white privilege, and about how white people have blind spots, and Supergirl literally says she has guilt. And I was thinking, whoa boy, here we go again with a show that's for some reason determined to get slammed by the anti-woke crowd. Now, I suppose in their mind, they're doing it because the message is important to them and they want to get it out. And again, they don't care what the anti-woke crowd thinks, but I don't know. I kind of think they should. I don't think they should give them preemptive veto power over their story choices, but I don't know. Are you trying to make something out of these CW shows or not? You know, if you keep doing this stuff, the good thing is they hadn't done this in a long time, but I guess they let the actress that plays Kelly, that plays Guardian, write this episode or direct it or both or something. And that's great. You know, you want to give your people a voice, but like, I don't know, figure out how to do it more subtly than that, because you're just going to get pinged. I mean, you know, obviously when Supergirl says she's feeling guilty, they're talking about white guilt. So the messaging itself doesn't bother me, but they're going to get hammered. And I don't know why they do this so overtly. I guess because they think the message is important. I can only hope it doesn't bite them in the rear end. Anyway, it goes on. John Jones talks about how even though he looks like a human because he's wearing a human face, he feels like an alien, well, because he is one. But he says it's because of how black people are treated. It makes him feel like an alien. So they have that whole conversation. Kelly then asks Brainy if racism still exists 1,000 years from now, because he's from the future. And he says it does, before he modifies her outfit, making it look much cooler. And the team confronts the councilwoman again with a plan to drain her of the fifth dimensional energy that's helping her do evil stuff. But I just want to back up for a second. 1,000 years from now, there's still racism, like 1,000 years from now? Boy, that's discouraging. Like, I mean, in the United States, black people have been oppressed for about 400 years. So it's not something that once it exists, it goes away quickly. But in 400 years, we have made progress. So we're supposed to believe that in 1,000 years, we haven't built on the progress we've already made to the point where racism is all but completely wiped out. That's hard to believe, but supposing that were to be true, it's not very hopeful. It's kind of a grim thought. So, wow, I wish they hadn't put that in there. Anyway, Guardian zaps the councilwoman with the fifth dimensional energy drainer thing that the team came up with, and then redirects that energy back to the sick people so that they can be cured of whatever they have, which, you know, from the dust, which somehow works to Nixley's advantage because she's happy about it afterward. I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand how directing the energy to all those people cured them, but it made the councilwoman evil. I may have missed something. Anyway, that's what happens. Diggle then heads back to Metropolis, saying something about how worlds await. Didn't really know what that meant. I mean, obviously, in the context of Green Lantern, it makes sense, but he seemed to suggest earlier that he declined to become a Green Lantern. So, and we certainly haven't seen him be a Green Lantern, so I don't know. Lena returns home to find what looks like a grimoire having been mailed to her. That's like a spell book. So that was interesting. More of the witch, Lena is a witch stuff. The next scene is a scene of Kelly putting a kerchief on her head and, you know, looking like, I don't even know how you would describe it. It reminded me of how black people were depicted on TV sometimes in the 70s, wearing a kerchief on their head. So that's what I got from it. She's wearing a shirt that says, say her name, and on the back it says, justice. And while she's moving around her apartment, she's perusing some of her books that she has. One of them is titled White Fragility, and then the rest of the title is something like How to Deal with It or something, but it says White Fragility. So again, they went way over the top to send a social justice message about racism. And I don't disagree with the message, and I don't mind messaging in shows or movies or whatever, but I think they went way over the top. It was way heavy-handed. And just like it bothered me when they did this all throughout season 4, it bothered me in this episode because it was just too much. It took the real world way too far into this comic book story. And I thought it was a wrong choice. And they're gonna get massive shit for it. Anyway, that's where the episode ended. I would have preferred it if they had spent more time dealing with Nixley and the whole plot that they set up with her, because that's really what the season is about. I thought this was a detour that didn't need to be taken on top of everything else. So I don't know. I got a strange feeling during this that Guardian's going to get her own show. just something about it made it feel like, they're not done with this, and they're not done with this idea of a hero for people who don't have a hero that looks like them. I have a feeling they might at least float the idea of her getting a show. They might do a pilot and see what happens. I think that's where they're going, but I can't be sure. I'm not even saying I wouldn't watch it. She looks great in the outfit, so it's fine. But wow, wow, this episode. Anyway, I'll be back to review the next episode once it airs. Until then, my friends, I just wish you all peace and long life.